even though I'm never going to use that as a switch, I wanted to come in here, save my patch with it on. It needed to be in the on state for me to hear my delays. That's very important. I think that's a very important thing that maybe people are missing. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Happy New Year. It's me, Double. I hope things are great. I have had a bunch of questions on a couple of the GX100 videos about how to control an amplifier's channel switching. So to go from the clean channel to the dirty channel, or whatever they're called on your particular amp, I'm gonna basically ditch the switch and go over a couple of different ways that we can do that with the GX100. I've had success in being able to store patches, being able to use switches, being able to use the Bluetooth, as well as plugging into the back here with a secondary external switch. So I want to go over how I set that up in the GX, and I'm going to run it into my Marshall DSL 20 head. It's going into a homemade cab that I have over here with a Killer Eminence Legend speaker in it. Another important cable to have, you're going to need either a TS or a TRS cable that's long enough to go to your amplifier, along with all of the regular cable run that you have going on at that moment. So I currently have a TRS plugged in the back here to the Marshall DSL 20, just because it needs that. The Marshall's switch for the DSL has channel switching, and then it has effects loop on or off. Some amps are going to have that second switch be the reverb on or off. I sure would like that for this, but that's not how this one's set up. It really does come down to what type of switch your amp is using. You're going to have, like if I have a Soldano, my old Soldano switch from the 90s is just a TS. So that would just be like a guitar cable, just the tip and the sleeve. Whereas a TRS cable is going to have tip, ring, this little extra ring here that's separated from the ground or the sleeve area. The TRS areas are separated by plastic. They're not conductive between the two of them. In the GX100, we're going to have control 3 and control 4. I have another one of these plugged in right here into the control 3 and control 4 inputs. Control 1 and 2 default to the switches here on the unit. And this would be control 3 and this would be control 4. So basically in here right now I have the BOSS FS7, and if you can see up in the corner, the bottom switch, which I think they have S4. This is why I covered this up, because it's really confusing. Yeah, so I think they had this, I don't know, this was B or A, I don't know. I've covered them up with stickers because it's always backwards, but you kind of have to mess around just to see what's going to do what. So you can see as I'm hitting this number 3, the amp is switching back and forth between channels, between the green and the red channels. And then if I wanted to turn the effects loop, which would be everything that I have going through the GX100 back into the return of the amp. Man, pardon the dust. This thing's seen some use. You do that by here. And so I even have it, I just have it set up so I can see when I hit this switch. I would probably not use this for that and just save it in this state and then reprogram this button to be something else. But at least we'll talk about how to program these buttons so that they're useful. I also even messed around with the EV 1WL, and I have this red button is switching the Marshall, as you can see right there, green to red when I hit the red button, and then the green button I have set for phaser. Now what I will say about this, there is a little latency. It's almost like it goes when I let go of it through the Bluetooth connection. You see that? Whereas with the hardwire control, it happens right when I touch it. So something to consider, you know, your play style may say, look, I don't really like having to wait. I might just dedicate these two buttons to that, or at least one of those buttons to that. So we'll talk about that real quick. Let's look at the software. So the first thing we are going to do is decide, do we want to have this always be the case, or is it going to be kind of a patch per patch basis? If you want it to always be the case that when you hit an external switch plugged into 3 and 4, when you hit number 3, it's going to change that amp channel for you, then you can do that real easily. I'll go back here and show you what I did. I hit Control EXP expression, and then the first thing I did was I hit the control page, and you see the first section is going to be what we assign these buttons to here on the actual interface. And then if you hit this arrow page over one time, you're going to see Control 3 and Control 4 come up. And as you dial through this knob directly below that section, you see you are given some choices. The default, I think, it was set to off, if I remember. So I am going to go to Amp Control 1. I'm going to go to Toggle, and I'll make that System, if that's what you want to do all the time. And then let's go over here to Control 4, and we can make that always be Amp Control number 2. You can confuse yourself and make it always be Control 1. Or you could just default it to nothing. Okay, so let's go ahead and put it to here, Amp Control 2. And now what else can we do? We can come down here to System or Memory. We might be on a patch where we don't necessarily want to turn off the internal effects or accidentally hit that button. There's a lot of control to be had within the GX100, and the assigns are really where it's at. So I hit exit, and I'm going to come back out here, and now we're going to talk about the individual patch and what I want to do with this patch. This one, I have a number of assigns. You can see as I scroll through here, and I have some of them on and some of them off. You can tell they're on. The green light indicates that it's in an on state. You can activate that particular on or off state by pushing this select button. There's a lot of different ways to do this. I could go to the current number right here. Assign settings, scroll down to any one of your things. Select the one that you want to modify. And I currently have that one set to current number 2, and then it's set to toggle. So I could go into here, and I'm going to scroll over. I'm going to use this number 3 to scroll column number 3 right there until I get over here to master. Okay, and then I'm not going to do memory level. I'm going to now go to column number 4, and I'm going to go to amp controls. See, as I've scrolled through here, I scroll past memory level. I start going clockwise. After input setting is amp control 1, and then amp control 2, then it stops. If you go in and you make those changes and you see, oh, no, I'm not having anything happen, make sure that you have hit this button to activate that assign. That green light needs to be on in order for this assign to happen. So let's make our current number, which would be number 1. And this is why this is convenient. On this patch, it would be number 1. Then if I change patches, it's going to be that current number, which would be number 2. Let's make that change channels on here when I hit that. Okay, so I've now activated it. I have current number set to toggle, master, and amp control, number 1. So when I hit that, we should see, yep, so now when I hit number 1, that's going to change the amplifier from clean to dirty. And what I have noticed is that works real quick, just like having a hardwire control input, as opposed to the Bluetooth, which just that touch of latency happens. This is instant. As soon as I hit that, I'm changing channels on the amp. So now within my patch, I have control just by selecting my patch that I've saved. I can hit this button, and I know I can easily change amp controls. And then you're going to want to write you're going to want to save this. So I'm going to hit right, and I'm going to tap the right function. If I wanted to save it to a different patch, I could do that. I could use this number 1 where it says write to. I could select which one I want it to go to. But for right now, I'm just going to keep it as that. I'll use that as a template and kind of go from there. I'd like to start with a core and kind of make it do everything I want it to do before I start doing it to all sorts of patches, before I start making those changes to all sorts of patches. Because let's say you didn't do something right, and then it takes you a bunch of button clicks to figure that out. So I like to work within one patch for a little while and just make sure I'm doing everything the proper way. I know I'm changing channel when I do that. Oh, I'm trying to save, so I can't really do that right now. So I'm going to go ahead and hit right, and now it's changing to that. But let's say, oh shoot, you know what? I've saved it to my dirty channel, but I wanted number 1 to be clean. Well, let's just hit that button, and now I can hit right again. Hit it 3 times, and it's going to now save that patch that I have to clean. You see that? And now when I hit the button, it'll change channels. So I'm still on patch 1, and it's gone to dirty just by hitting number 1 again. Okay? So just make sure that you guys are seeing that green and this button right here. As I touch that, now they're doing that. So I've gone ahead and just like when I hit right, instead of overwriting to the same patch, I've done this move. I changed some channels and I saved some to have some shimmer and some to be dirty. So as I go through and play, I can have my clean channel. And now I know patch 2. I know that's got more delay on it. It's more of a lead channel. Let's say patch 3, I have dirty with some shimmer on, a nice bit of... And because I'm using 4 cable method and I have the delays and reverbs and stuff in the return of the amp, I'm not hitting the amp preamp section really weird with different delays. I can kind of keep that similar base of sounds that I have stored and then use the GX100 to control the amplifier and just go back and forth. I have these patches set up so that with the EV1, I'm using the expression pedal to control my drive, so I can be on a clean and then bring up more and then bring it back, just with the control of my foot. The combination of just a little bit of overdrive from the GX's Centaur into the driven Marshall, yeah, you get a lot of sustain. And then let's say I bring it back down a little bit, even back the volume off. So once again, I'm saying the GX100, a lot of people say, oh, you're not getting your money's worth if you're not using it as a computer and a DI. Yeah, I have a DI for this. It's great. I love using it USB. I love recording with this thing. But man, using it with an amp and using it to change your channels, change the reverb, do things like that, all within your control and your assigned settings, you really have some incredible options. So we don't have to do current number just to change that amp channel. I could, like I said, use this source. I can make that be control 1 or control 2. So that's where when we're looking at our control function and we're looking at whether we want it to be memory or system, we might want to set that to memory on all of them, It's nice to have the option to be able to go back and forth and not have to reprogram a whole bunch of things. There might be a situation where you're just like, you know what, I'm just going to do it this way tonight. I'm just setting it up this way. There it is. And then you might be recording and you might want to have a bunch of different assigns going all within one patch, and you might want to just go off of the memory for that. So let's go ahead and say we've set control 3 to memory then. Or that we haven't even set it at all. And let's use this control input on the back to send a control out to the amplifier. If I were to go over to my assign settings again. Let's come out of here, right? We go over, we're in our patch. We want to go to control expression. We want to go to assign settings. We want to make this particular patch and any patch that we then save based off of this patch do this move with control 3, right? So we're going to clockwise go down to, for me, it's the number 2 here. And we're going to make sure it's engaged. Hit select. You're going to go to control 3, toggle. I have it set to toggle. You could have it momentary if you just want to do that for that patch. I would default to toggle just so that you don't have to worry about it. And then you do the same thing as you scroll through your presets here. Go to master, and then you select on number 4 column, AMP control. Okay, so that's the easiest way to do it patch per patch. If you're going to do it that way, if you want to just default everything, every time you use that button, go into your control functions section as opposed to your assign sections. Assigns are generally going to be for the patch. Control is going to give you the option of whether what you're doing is controlling the whole thing all the time that way or just that patch that way. That's what the system versus memory means. So I hope some of this clears things up for people that have asked about this. The big key is whether or not you have a TRS cable or a TS cable and what your amp needs. My amp needs the TRS cable to do both functions. What I did here in this instance, I just came up with the patch that I liked, that had the sounds on it that I wanted, and did that. And now as I save, I can add more things, add more effects, and put them in the proper places based on where the placement of your 4-cable method is, or whether or not you're going straight into the front of your amp. You know, some people are going to want to set like a clean channel patch and then a dirty channel patch, and then save your delay levels and save all this and that within the GX100 and just make it that simple. You could really do that between 1 and 2 patches, and then with all the different controls, bring all other effects in and out on those patches. But this is how I would use it. If I was using it with an amplifier, I would set up the current number to channel switch or to do drive. You know, like right here, I would like to have that button change my channel. That way, whatever sound I have is there, you know what I mean? And with this unit, it's so cool because you can go in and assign several things. I have a number of things assigned on this patch to current number. I'm turning the overdrive on and off, so I'm going from a completely clean amp and no overdrive and a clean channel. And I'm also, let's see, I'm bringing my compression in. So if we go to my effects, you can see when I hit this, not only am I changing the amp channel, but I'm also bringing in compression and the overdrive. All right, that's all just within the control assign settings, current number, okay? And I even have this set up right now when I hit the current number to have the delay effect level come up. So when it's off, when the button is off, it's only giving me effect level of 7. Very mild. But when I turn it on, in conjunction to the overdrive and the amp channel and the compression, I also have the delay level boost up to 40. This thing is awesome to use with an amp, all right? I don't want to hear people say it's not, if you're using it with an amp, but it's not, you're not getting your money's worth. If you got an amp you like, use it, man. This is the way to do it. Use the control section. If you like going back and forth on your channels, that's the way to do it. If you want to save patches and have them be individually done, do it within the assign setting. Remember, you're going to need to look for the master section, and that's where you're going to find right here. If you go to master, so where am I right now? How did I just get to this? So let's say we don't even want to use any of those external functions within, we don't want to add a pedal or anything like that. We just want to use this and a couple of cables with our amp. Well, let's go to our effects section and scroll all the way over to the master. See here where we go to master? And then let's use this page, and we're going to go to the right one time. There we have amp control. Right now you can see I have it on red, and if I turn it off, it goes over to green. Okay, so that's where I can store it. See, you can do this weird effects loop on off thing right here as well. Even though I'm never going to use that as a switch, I wanted to come in here, save my patch with it on. It needed to be in the on state for me to hear my delays. That's very important. I think that's a very important thing that maybe people are missing. You have to go over to the master section and tell it whether or not you want it on. If you are using a TS cable with a DSL, and you're not going to be telling the amp to do anything there. So you have to do the TRS cable. That's going to send it through the ring section, and it's going to then talk to what it's going to see in the amplifier, switch number 2. So control number 4 will be, or amp control 2 will be that second thing. You know what I'm saying? It gets so confusing because control 3 in can then default to control 1 and 2 amp. Yeah. This is a good place to at least get your bearings. Okay, go to the master section and see what it's doing. Am I changing my amp channels? Am I doing this? Am I turning my effects on and off? Am I turning the reverb on and off if you have the reverb button? That's one of the ways to see it, okay? And then obviously deeper control within the control section, going to assigns. So there's a couple of other things that kind of came into play for me. For one, I'm using 4 cable method, and so I needed to actually bring my return level up some. If I was at the other setting, in the in and out setting, let's see, if I was at the +4 setting, it was making the head way too hot. It was really just too loud. Everything was too loud. So I have it set to -10 dB. I have my global EQ off for this. And I have it set to line phones recording just because I don't want any alterations. I don't want any sort of compensations going on through their stuff. I just want the effects. And as you can see, within this effect chain, I have no amp model. So I'm using my head and I'm using a cabinet. I have the amp model removed. Crazy animal hair. That makes me happy. I hope that this helps you out. It's helping me out a lot. I'm glad you guys asked. It was a little tricky. In just trying to figure out exactly how to get in here and what was going to do what. But hopefully this gives you a little bit of guidance. It's going to depend on your amp style. It's going to depend on the switching style, whether it's going to be control 1 or control 2. That's switching your amps. It seems like the Marshall control 1 obviously is channel switching. For my Soldano, it would be the same thing. Now, there's other amps that have MIDI. There's other amps that do all that kind of stuff. This obviously is really just covering your basic channel switcher with the cable. I hope that this was helpful for you all. And if it was, leave me a like, please. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And if there's something else you'd like me to kind of go over as far as using the GX100, let me know. I really, really dig this thing. I love recording with it. I love just sitting down and jamming with headphones into my system or doing whatever. It's been great for doing videos, and so I plan on using this a lot more in the future, and I hope to be able to help anybody out if possible. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below. I'll do my best to help you. There is also a GX100 users group on Facebook. A bunch of good guys over on that group. I appreciate you guys being here to watch the video. I hope this was helpful. Thank you very much. Take care.